And we're back. One more week, the John Alite Show. And we're going to get right into it. Hit the click button, subscribe. A lot of people are writing in this week, which we like that. So keep writing in, give me subjects, and we'll talk about them. But today we're going to talk about a captain in the Bonanno family. He was straightened out by Galante back in the late 70s. And that is Frankie Copa. Frankie Copa was a big stock guy. He made millions of dollars, very wealthy. He just died recently in his 80s. He went into witness protection program. He was, from what I understand, the first guy to roll in the Bonanno family, which brought down 12 other captains, several other guys, made guys that cooperated, and the boss, Joe Messina, and gave Vinny Gorgeous a life sentence wearing a wire on him. We're talking about past murders and things they did, and he wired up on them in a cell. Frankie was a big guy, heavy-set guy, fat guy. Actually, they tried to hit him, I believe it was in the 80s when they tried to hit him. He was coming out of a fast food place, and they tried to blow him up in a car. Weren't successful, obviously. And he was in good graces with in the late 70s with Galante because of the money, the earning capacity. And again, you know, people, the old style gangsters were more street guys, I would say. And I mean street guys by saying they were back what people know the mob as being violent. So back in those days, just the way Galante got killed, and there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of killing, a lot of shooting. And they had guys that knew their place as earners. I think the mistake is they're bringing these guys in no different than Gotti didn't care for Paul Castellano, even though he's a billionaire and a businessman. They didn't like the white-collar guys. These guys were more street guys, you know, in the gutter. And, you know, the respect was for the gangster. Frankie Copa didn't fit that role. And they put him in a life that, you know, eventually when he gets jammed up, he starts cooperating. So I'm going to take you to, you know, how I know Frankie. And I know him also in the parking industry. And I was in and out of jail a couple times. I went back to prison. And I ended up back in Fort Dix, I believe on a short bid. I was in and out, so I believe it was on a short bid. Then I got out, and I got hit with a violation. I went back in. And I was there with Skinny Dom, who became a captain in the Gambino family. Johnny Bino, made guy in the Gambino family. And a load of other guys were in there. But Frankie Copa was in there at that time. And he was hanging around. He would play chess and cards with a Jewish guy that stole, I don't know, a couple $100 million. I believe in the banking business. And we knew Frankie was working him. He would sit under a tree with him, and they talked for hours at a time. And the guy was, he never gave up the money. He got convicted, and they didn't know where the money was. And I just figured Frankie's working him to get money or some sort of business deal. And one day I'm up in my, we're in dorms in Fort Dix, by the way. So I'm upstairs in the dorm, I'm by the window, and Skinny Dom and Johnny Bino were arguing. So I don't know what they're arguing. They come up to my dorm. They live downstairs. And they say, hey, they're all serious in that heated argument. And I'm like, and Bino's like, can you talk to this guy? And Dom couldn't hear good, so he's going like, what? And Bino's a sharp, like, fast talker. And so we go out in the hall, and I go, what's up? And they say, Bino says, I'm telling him that Frankie Copa is no good. He goes, I know he's no good. I go, why do you think he's no good? And he gives some reasoning of why he thought he was no good, but nothing concrete. He goes, and he keeps talking to Dom. And right prior to that, Pete Gotti was picked up and put in the hole. and which later on he gets a life sentence. But so Bino was a little paranoid of Frankie Copa was asking too many questions. And he says to Dom, and then I forget exactly, and Dom's telling me what he's asking him. I go, Dom, Dom's never been to prison at this point, so he doesn't really know the etiquette of prison, and he does know the etiquette of asking a lot of questions. But Frankie's a very smart guy, and Dom can't hear well, and Dom wasn't well read. He didn't read or write. He didn't go to school. He was illiterate, actually. Couldn't read or write. So Bino was worried that Frankie was too slick and would maneuver Dom out of things he shouldn't be talking to him about. So we told him, yeah, you're better off staying away from him. Put a little distance. So Dom goes, I'll put a little distance. He goes, but, he's cursing out Johnny. Johnny's cursing him out. They're arguing. And we let it go. But then we see Dom still talking to him all the time. So Johnny Bino says to me again, this guy won't listen. He's constantly talking to him, and he's asking him personal questions about our family he shouldn't be answering, which Bino was right. He was asking things he shouldn't be asking, so it made me leery also. Is there something up with this guy? So as the time's going by, I'm working out all the time. I'm running, I'm jogging, I'm with another guy, Ricky, and I'm with the one of the bosses. He became the boss of Rhode Island, the guy Eddie. And, I used to walk the yard with him a lot. And I see this Frankie, and I'm paying attention now more to Frankie now. So when I'm moving around the compound, I am seeing Frankie looking for Dom all the time. So I was getting leery myself because of what Johnny told me. And then I see Frankie, he's always out on visits. Whenever he can get a visit, he gets a visit from his family. And he's got these two Spanish guys. And one of them was a sharper guy. The other guy was a complete clown. And Frankie's got money, so he's, abusing these guys basically. Even though he's giving them money, but he's abusing them, treating them like suckers. It's not a way to carry yourself in prison, but to each man his own, right? And he's going on a visit, and they're ironing his clothes. And again, he's a big fat guy, Frank. He's huge. And these guys, and it's raining one day. And you see them running to the unit, and they're holding umbrellas for him so he can walk. And they got two umbrellas because he's a big guy. Instead of one, they got two. And they're both walking him to the visit. And when he goes on the visit, they wait for him to come out of the visit. And they got the umbrellas for him when he comes out of the visit. So, we're laughing about it. Guys are making fun of him and making fun of them both. And he's got them carrying his bag for him when he goes to, when you go to the store and, little things like that. They're polishing his shoes. And other guys don't like it. Guys that are in there, talking, calling them names and, look at this jerk off and whatever, because he's got these guys running around like this. So they're making fun of him. I don't know, people that watch The Godfather, when he's wearing the white hat, and they're making fun of him. He's walking and he's got the overcoat over his back. And so they were teasing him, whatever the guy's name was in that, Don Cheech or whatever the hell his name was. And it was kind of funny, but you got nothing better to do. So everybody's always breaking balls. So they start breaking his balls a lot. And another guy from Brooklyn, he comes up to me and he tells me, can I talk to you? And he's a little scared. And he's a little tentative. And I says, yeah, what's up? He says, I don't want to talk to anybody can hear me. So we go outside and he says, listen, he goes, I think Frankie's a rat. So I look at him and I go, yeah, another guy. And he goes, what? I go, nothing. Just tell me why you said that. He goes, well, he's going out for his retinas. I go, what is he doing? He says, he's going out for his retinas, his eyes. I go, really? Now, anybody that knows, in jail, you're going to be dead first before they send you out. Forget about going out for some shit for your eyes. It ain't happening. You're going to have a heart attack and maybe you can get out to a hospital. So that was the red flag that he must be cooperating. So I forget the guy. I wish I remember the guy's name that came up to me. But he's a younger guy, skinny guy. Smart. He's not a dummy. And he says, I'm telling you. He says he went out a couple of times now. The first time I didn't think nothing of it. Then he went out again. I go, yeah, you're right. Something's wrong. I go, don't tell nobody. He goes, no, I ain't saying nothing. So a couple days, a week went by, something like that, and they have visits, and he has a visit, the kid that's talking to me. And he says to me, I got a visit. He says, I'm going to sit next to him, my family. I'm going to try to listen to what he's saying. So he sits next to him, and he's hearing that conversation, which is, I mean, I can't believe that the guy's this dumb, actually, at the time. And he's talking to his family, and he's discussing that he's cooperating. And then when he comes home, and he's, I guess, explaining everything, and the kid hears it all. So after the visit, the kid comes to me again, and he goes, oh, he's a fucking rat, 100%. I go, how do you know? He goes, 100%. Yeah, I said, now I think he is also. But then he says, 100% he is. I heard the conversations. I go, and, he got into little detail about, how he's going to do it when he leaves. And, he's working a deal. And he actually talked a lot about it, which is surprising because there's a lot of people around. I don't know why he would do that, but he did. So I'm coming home. I'm going home pretty soon. So now I meet Johnny Pino and Dom. And we tell him, Dom, do not talk to him anymore. He's definitely working. And Dom really still doesn't understand, even though we told him everything with Dom. You don't leave prison. Forget it. I said, I blew out my leg and my leg was swollen, like, forget it. I was on crutches for 6 months. They didn't send me out. And you can have a blood clot and die from the blood clot. They still wouldn't send you out. So they're not sending you out for retina. So we're trying to explain this to him. I go, forget it. He goes, yeah, but he has money. His money ain't doing him shit in here. It doesn't matter about his money. It doesn't matter about his lawyers. It doesn't matter anything. You're not getting out, especially the way he's going out now. He's not going out. He's definitely working. So I get a visit, and I tell a friend of mine who's friends with Joe Messina. And I tell my friend to go see this guy, to go see Joe Messina, and tell him, no, Joe just got out. So I think he was on paper at the time. And tell him that this guy's no good, just to give him a tip. So he knows that he's no good. So a couple of months later, I'm getting out. So I get out, and I tell my friend to go tell Joe, and I climb, because I'm on paper now. I go around his backyard into his backyard, and he's sitting in front of his house in a chair. And I go by the fence on the other side of him, and I'm talking to him through the other side of the fence, telling him Frankie Copa, and I'm explaining everything what I just explained to everybody here. And he says, yeah, I'm not worried about it. He says, it's all right. He says, but he knows he's no good. He goes, but I don't have exposure. He can't hurt me. Now, Joe's close with him because he's a big money guy. Joe's got a ton of money. And, his wife, Josephine, I think, was in the house at the time because she was asking you. It's funny because she's asking him to ask me, even though I'm on the other side of the fence, if I want something to drink or whatever. I think she brought the iced tea. I don't remember what she brought. And I leave. But the part that no one knows is Sal Vitale, his brother-in-law, his wife's brother, is exposed by Frankie Copa. And here's the story what people don't know. So Sal is steaming when he finds out that I told Joe, and I gave him an early warning that this guy's no good. But Joe never tells Sal. So when people ask, well, why did Sal flip on Joe originally? And in my opinion, that's why. He never let his brother-in-law know that he was in trouble, but Joe figured he was shielded from Sal. He can't get hurt by Frankie, which he exposed Sal, so Sal gave up Joe. And that's when everything started tumbling. And that's when Joe, and you've seen this coming too, people don't understand, oh, he's a stand-up guy, he went to trial. He has nothing to lose to go to trial. You go to trial, he knows no matter what they say, if he blows trial, if he wants to come in and cooperate, I mean, Joe Messina now, of course they're going to work with deal with him. Why wouldn't they? He's got a mountain of information from Canada to the triple murders back then, when they brought in guys to do a hit for them, and they killed Red and these, and a couple of guys at that time. So they had a lot of, I mean, that's just one thing, but they had a lot of things that Joe could give up. And that's when Joe decided after he blew trial, all right, I got two chances here. Go to trial, become a hero if I, win a trial on a long shot. If not, I'll just come back and cooperate which he did, and he wore a wire. And they come tumbling down after that. Captain after captain dismantled. The whole family was desolate. And he rats on everybody, goes in a jail cell. He talks to Vinnie Gorgeous, who Vinnie Gorgeous obviously is answering his boss at that time. So he was kind of, screwed, Vinnie. I mean, I guess he could have said to him, we ain't talking about this because we shouldn't be talking about, for the people that don't know, anything that's done, especially a murder, is not to be brought up again. Never. And for Joe to get Vinnie to talk is a huge mistake. And Vinnie spoke about murders, spoke about family business, and Joe buried him. And from that point, Vinnie was all over the papers, all over the news. And he had a couple of murders, one to do with his son. He killed a guy that I believe tried to kill his son, or tried to hurt his son. I don't remember exactly what that was, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. And Vinnie killed the guy. So, which any father would have did the same thing, actually. And from what I understand, the son was, his son is a night. Most guys like him. He's got a good personality. For what I understand, people like him. So, Vinnie did what a father would do, but he made the mistake answering Joe's questions. In the meantime, Frankie goes into witness protection, and he ends up in Sarasota, Florida, I believe. And he ends up eventually hooking up with Joe again. And from what I understand, they started being friends again. And both of them passed since then. Both of them died. Both of them very big, heavy guys. Both of them ate food, whatever, like crazy. Whatever, they would eat anything. They were junk machines. So it's not surprising that these guys died of complications or heart attacks and whatever. But the guys that don't know the history of Frankie and how obvious it was that he was cooperating, but when guys like Skinny Dom, they're not jailhouse guys. They didn't grow up in jail. He's not that educated, so he wouldn't have a clue. And Johnny actually, Bino, saved him because he was working Dom for sure. He was trying to get information out of Dom like crazy. And Dom's not sharp like Frankie. And if Johnny Bino didn't step in, Dom would have hammered himself a coffin and got a couple life sentences, which later on Dom goes to trial. I don't know how he only got, I believe, 12 years after blowing the RICO, and he only got 12 years. Who knows? I don't know who the judge was in that case. I don't know why you only got 12 years. And you got convicted going, or, when you go to trial like that, they usually put your lights out. And he only got a 12-year bid, which is really nothing for going to trial and blowing. But Johnny Bino did save his skin, because he would have had him taped up and talking about everything, just like he did with that Jewish guy, which he got the money out of him. He found out where he put the money, and he worked him, and the guy blabbed it where his money was and whatever, and he got the money. So Frankie was smart enough to get that out of him, and he would have maneuvered Skinny Dom the same way if it wasn't for Bino. And this isn't a penitentiary. I mean, Dix, everybody in our neighborhood's there. So anybody that's in all our neighborhoods, we all end up in Dix. It's a low, and it houses two sides, the east and west, for people that don't know. And that's the story of Frankie Copa and his situation. And again, I'm always against these guys with money that get straightened out. Your money guys, you bring them around, you keep them as an associate, you lock them in, whatever way you're going to lock them in as a wise. I don't believe they should be getting straightened out. Not even today's mob, but especially not back then. But again, it's greed. Galante wanted to take his money. So, he brought him in and he straightened him out. Me personally, I'm against these guys that aren't really street guys. Intelligence is important, but you need to have the other quality also and be a real gangster. I said, the problem is when these guys are living a fake life until they're not about it. They're business guys. They're intelligent. They're con men. They're snakes. They're all those things. They're maneuverers, but they're not gangsters. Not what you would call a gangster back, the image everybody sees from Godfather or any of the old shows with Genovese, Vito Genovese, or Albert Anastasia. These guys were gangsters. That's the image people are still afraid of, intimidated, thinking the mob today is like the old mob. It's far from it. All right, everybody, hit the subscribe button, ask questions, tell me what you want to hear. If you want to hear about somebody else, let me know, and subscribe. I'll talk to everybody. Thanks a lot. See you next week.